We're also following developments in Georgia this morning, where court filings reveal the prosecutor in the election subversion case there against Donald Trump bought airline tickets for himself and Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis on at least 2 occasions, both for out-of-state travel. Those filings were made by prosecutor Nathan Wade's estranged wife as part of their divorce case proceedings. Fani Willis, the DA there, is facing allegations of misconduct over an improper relationship with Wade. It was first alleged in the court filing by one of the Trump co-defendants, Mike Roman. He is a former Trump 2020 campaign official who was also indicted over his role in the fake electors plot. Now, these allegations and these latest filings raise concern they could taint the case. One analyst who has praised Willis is calling for Wade to step aside.
If they asked me, I would say, Mr. Wade, the right thing to do, not mandatory, voluntary, the right thing to do is to recognize your successes here and step away.
That was CNN legal analyst Norm Eisen you just heard from. He joins me this morning. So glad to have you here. I think it is surprising to some to hear you call for Wade to step away. Not Willis. You think she can continue with this case, but Wade, her chief prosecutor on all of this. Can you explain why?
Good morning, Poppy. Look, the law of disqualification in Georgia does not require either of them to step aside. It's not a disqualifying event for 2 prosecutors to have a relationship. But the challenge with Mr. Wade remaining on this case is that it's become a distraction from what is one of the most serious alleged conspiracies in American history. Poppy, we all heard that January 2nd, 2021 tape when Donald Trump said to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, just find 11,780 votes that didn't exist. That's where the focus needs to be. We need to get the case on track, moving quickly. A trial has been requested for 2024, and not discussing this relationship. Not mandatory, but he should do the right thing.
One of the questions here is, Wade, this prosecutor, has made more than $650,000 on prosecuting this case so far, paid through Willis's office. It's taxpayer money. Mike Roman, his legal team, one of the co-defendants here, is saying their argument here is that by using that money to buy plane tickets to go on, sort of tropical vacations is not okay. And what they're alleging here is that Willis could possibly be prosecuted herself for honest services fraud or federal racketeering. Do you think that holds any legal water, or is that a stretch?
It's ridiculous, Poppy. Mr. Wade is a former judge. He's an experienced lawyer. He's done a terrific job up until now leading this team. He's had a series of successes. The team he's led has defeated some of the most prominent attorneys in the country in a series of legal battles, secured 4 guilty pleas. He's working at what we call in the legal profession a low bono rate, a reduced hourly rate of $250 an hour. That is nothing unusual. He's worked hard for years. The sum he's earned is not unusual by legal standards. I know it might sound like a lot to average folks. And people are allowed to have relationships. Prosecutors can do that. They can travel together. No. That's silly. The law does not support it.
Okay. I do want to let people listen to Fani Willis. This is her speaking publicly about this, defending herself and defending Wade. Listen.
All 3 of these special counselors are superstars. But I'm just asking God, is it that some will never see a black man as qualified, no matter his achievements? What more can one achieve? The other 2 have never been judges, but no one questions their credentials.
Norm, Fani Willis has been subpoenaed in the divorce proceedings. She's trying to quash that subpoena. My question to you is, would you advise her to comply with the subpoena, to say whatever, she's asked, to answer the questions, and try to move on from there?
I would advise her to attempt to confine the scope of the subpoena to relevant evidence. I looked at the available divorce papers, and it appears that Mr. Wade's estranged spouse and Mr. Wade were already separated long before he came on to this case. If the information is not relevant to the divorce, Poppy, then there's no need for this deposition if it is an attempt to harass or exploit. But we don't have all the facts. Ms. Willis knows more. She should put that out there, and if it's irrelevant, she should object. If there's relevant information, she should try to shrink the topics, narrow them down, but provide the information.
Norma Eisen, thank you. Good to have you.
I want to move on to another case because a lot of us are looking at this and talking about this, the Georgia case, and the controversy that is surrounding now the district attorney, Fani Willis, in Georgia. Nathan Wade, the special prosecutor that she hired to manage this case, is a personal injury attorney. Why is he on this case, and what's your take on the controversy that has now surrounded this case, which is such a huge case, and which Donald Trump's lawyers are starting to really attack her and her decisions, and talking about, they're accusing her of corruption, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of drama around this case. To me, what matters legally boils down to really the money and a potential conflict of interest. Now, Mr. Wade, as you said, his primary area of practice was personal injury law, not, in my view, qualified to handle a major, complicated racketeering case. Nonetheless, he's been hired, along with two other lawyers from the outside, to come in and help the DA. Nothing wrong with that. But if you look at the amount of money they've been paid and they've billed, Mr. Wade has billed $650,000+ The others have billed $70,000 and $90,000. So there's a question of, is he working 9 times as much as the other folks? The other big problem, though, is there's clearly a relationship of some nature, we don't know exactly, between the DA and Mr. Wade, and some of that money is being used on travel that the DA is accompanying him on. So some of the money that the DA's office is paying out to Mr. Wade is now being used for personal purposes for the DA. So there's a real potential conflict of interest there. Really important to keep in mind. We have a hearing in that case set for February 15th, so we'll get more information then. But at a minimum, it looks terrible and it raises legitimate questions about the DA.
Two things. Does it raise ethical questions, not criminal questions? And will this have any impact on the case? In other words, is there a possibility this could have the case thrown out or have it moved? Or is there something that could happen with the actual election subversion case?
So the questions here as to the DA are, I believe, ethical and conflict of interest. I don't believe there's evidence of a crime that's happened. Also, really important to understand this. None of this will cause the criminal charges against Donald Trump and the other defendants to be dismissed, because these allegations don't have to do with the charges against Donald Trump trying to steal the 2020 election, and they don't have to do with his constitutional rights. Sometimes a prosecutor may do something that keeps evidence away from a defendant that he's entitled to, for example. That's not this. What I think could happen is you could see either forced recusals or voluntary recusals of either Mr. Wade or the DA herself. We'll see if either of them thinks it's appropriate to do that on their own, and if not, we'll see if the judge compels it.
This is big for Donald Trump's team, just for the public, right? This is more of a PR thing for them as well. We will be watching this. I know you will be too.
You know.
And we'll have you back, of course.
Thanks, Sarah.
Ali Honig,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you so much.